That is it. I have pressed record, so we are officially unable to talk trash about our bosses. Just joking, bosses. It's been friendly so far. What's up, everybody? This is another episode of Worker to Worker. This will be our fourth episode. I'm happy to be hanging out here with Darrin. I'm Eric from UFCW Local 8. And like I said, Darrin's here to chat with me about some rank and file worker stuff or some union stuff. And I'm going to throw it over him to introduce himself and kind of let you know where he's from and what he's been up to. How's it going, Darrin?
Thanks. Great. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. My name is Darrin. I'm a lifelong computer nerd. I've been writing software professionally for a very long time. But 14 years ago, I started working with what turned into my union, writing member management software. And since then, my focus has been solving problems with technology for unions. I'm a member of Local 955 operating engineers here in Alberta. I'm a rank and file member, make that very clear, though I work with the leadership at a level supporting them. I'm not an employee of the union, and I have no actual say over how the union is run. I just advise leadership on nerdy things, and they make the calls based on that. So these are all my thoughts, not theirs.
Yeah, and actually, just to piggyback on that and make sure I say it too, I'm in the UFCW Local 8. I'm also a rank and file member. Everything that I say is my opinion. I don't speak on behalf of the UFCW. I wish I could. I would say things differently than they do, but these opinions are mine and mine alone. But stay tuned for more on that in the future, perhaps. But we're just here talking. It's actually interesting. You know, I'll ask you kind of a little bit more about it, but it's interesting how these connections are even made. For those of you that caught it, like I'm in Northern California, UFCW Local 8, out of Reading area, and Darrin's in Alberta, Canada, out of the Operating Engineers Union. How did we even meet each other?
Reddit. I posted on Reddit a couple of weeks ago something I built to support unions and organizing, and Eric reached out and he shared some feedback on the project I had put together, and here we are.
Yeah, so we met on Reddit. There's, a lot of subreddits out there for union members to connect and communicate on. r/union's one of them. r/anti-work's another really good one of them. If you like to see some memes about people that don't want to be in the working world. But also I would recommend, like, if you have a union subreddit, to check that out, r/UFCW. For UFCW members, it's a great place to connect with them. And then also your workplace. If your workplace happens to have a subreddit, that might be a good place to connect with some people in your workplace. But I think we connected on r/union, where you were sharing your site intel website. And I thought it was pretty cool because it was like a reporting platform basically for people to, if they saw job sites. This was my understanding from what it looked like to me, was for people who saw job sites that were union busting, basically were not hiring union work. Is that what it was for you to report that?
Right. Well, as an IUOE member in 955, one of my duties is to support organizing. If a drive comes my way, I must support them. So I was out picking up groceries. The operating engineers are, cranes and heavy equipment, plus a large stationary, and it's a varied union. I saw some cranes off in the distance, so I drove over, snapped a few pictures, and I sent them to our lead organizer. Then I drove home and realized, I didn't tell them where they were. And I was very frustrated by the whole process. So that night I said, I can make this better. So I started off with submit a crane, and it was IUOE focused. But during this process, I also realized that there's a lot of things going on both here in Alberta and down in the United States that I don't necessarily agree with. And I won't go too much detail into that. It's not political. It's just, I feel that freedom and labor are being attacked at every level. And I don't want to sound all conspiracy-like, but if the elected representatives can't or won't stand up for the people, I feel that our unions are probably our next best thing. And, both here in Alberta and across the United States, the labor movement is being attacked. So I realized in doing that, how about I just spend a few more hours, broaden the scope for this, and make it a tool that any union can take advantage of. So I designed it in such a way so that you member out in the street can see a non-union job site or business and pop open the site on their phone and submit that to the site. We'll then connect with the appropriate local, get them, the organizers, the information, and it includes, the map location, photos they took, and the contact information of the person submitting it. Since then, I've submitted a dozen cranes to my union. I think they might be getting a little bit overwhelmed, but that's more data that they can work with, and it's intelligence for them.
Yeah.
Then I went on to Reddit and I posted in /r/union. Here's this thing I made. I hope it helps, and here we are.
Yeah. So I mean, for people listening, that's it's reporting software to make it really easy for people, and in these instances, it would be rank and filers who were familiar with what a union job site or a non-union job site would even be and how to identify it. But it gives them the ability to report that information to an organizer, which then gives the organizer the ability to then go in and hopefully organize that workplace and gain new union members and get those people a first contract, right? And that tool is huge. As a union, you have to want to organize. There has to be a desire on your part to organize, to take advantage of that information, or it just gets sent to you and you just sit on it. So I fear, in some experiences like the experience that I'm having in my local, that it doesn't matter what we tell them, they're not going to take that information and do anything with it. But the potential for that, it's huge. And like you said, for all the cranes that you're identifying, it lets your union know, we need to dedicate more resources to organizing. We need to be able to capture all of this. It's going to take this many more organizing staff. It helps you guys plan for education needed to get professional organizers out there and help capture those members. And in reality, we know what union density is out there. It's less than 10% here in the United States. So in theory, 9 out of 10 crane sites need to get reported, right? Or in our situation, same thing. Like, you see grocery stores out there that are non-union, turn them in. As Darrin and I were talking, it's because of the stability within like the retail market, it's like very obvious. Like there's not grocery stores popping up and then a few months later they're gone because the grocery store project's done. They're there. They've been there for years. Everybody knows that's a union store. This one up the street's a non-union store, et cetera, et cetera. But in thinking about this, it got me thinking about how reporting software, specifically rank and file reporting software, could be beneficial to union members. And in the grocery store, in retail contracts, we have issues with vendors, and those vendors are more and more, and it seems like in every contract, they're getting more and more leeway in the stores to take away what we call clerk work or labor from the unionized people. And obvious union busting, right? It's a way to subsidize their wages. They send them all around, and now we've got like Boar's Head deli employees working within our deli, and every contract we've got to fight off like what work they can and can't do, and this spreads out into soda vendors and all kinds of coffee, all different brands, beer, chips, everything. And we have contract language, some more strict than others, that prevent certain vendors from doing certain work. One standard example is liquor that comes in from our warehouse. There's a lot of reps that represent those companies, so they come in and try to sell those branded products. They'll try to talk to our liquor managers and get them to buy in on stacks of liquor, etc. And some of the ways that they'll kind of grease those wheels is they'll help the liquor manager throw their load up on the shelf. Now, when you're starved for hours and you're starved for help and you're being asked to do three people's jobs, like that comes across as helpful. I've seen it. I've allowed it as a manager on my part because I'm like, yeah, get that load up, get off the floor, cool. As a rank and file union member, realizing that that's taking hours away from people that should be getting paid, and also knowing that that specific action is a violation of a contract, like that becomes a reportable offense. We don't have a really easy way to report it. So we had that conversation. We were bouncing that idea back and forth, and I took it to our general membership meeting on Thursday and asked them what they thought about it. And I actually asked them who in the UFCW staff side could I put you in touch with to help discuss that on a further level. and they basically told me, do not take pictures of anybody inside the stores. That might be illegal. And here's actually, they gave me a list of things, which we'll have to talk about more, but offline perhaps, a list of things, pieces of information that would be extremely helpful for them to have reported to them in a vendor violation that didn't necessarily involve needing a picture, which would avoid some of the things they were worried about of photography in public places, and capturing like potentially customers or things without permission. So,
Right.
so I did appreciate that response there. But I did want to let you know that I brought that idea like up to them, because I think this idea of like technology, I think it's the missing link. You and I talked about this, and maybe you can speak to it a little bit more, but these companies, they work super hard to keep us divided and make it impossible for us to connect with each other. Technology is the piece that's missing from this equation for us to overcome that. I mean, here we are talking from California to Alberta, Canada. How is it that we can overcome this like push to divide us with technology to perhaps get more connected, and some tools that software can help us use to get more connected, particularly across unions perhaps?
Well, I think it's a tricky one, but we're already using social media. It's one of the positives to those platforms. But when you're looking at something more targeted, like trying to gain, networking within your own local, I think using something, well, I don't actually know the answer. It's a tough question. But I look at individual challenges that we face, if you're not able to gather as a union, if for some reason, creating your own kind of registry, so to speak, or a network of your brothers and sisters could be helpful. It would allow you to have events, have get-togethers, communicate in person and online, share, build a community, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's something we struggle with. I don't know if you guys have this, but does your union facilitate activities within the union for rank and filers that you would consider helpful in building solidarity?
Oh yeah. We have every month I believe it's called the Old Timers Club. Retired members can come into the hall. They put together, coffee and donuts and cookies, and they just trade stories. We have just coming up this summer, we have 3 halls in Alberta. It's pretty far apart: Edmonton, Calgary, and Fort McMurray. It's about a 4-hour drive between each city. We're having a family fun day, I think for the 3rd year, where the union basically sets up a bunch of events in the parking lots and in the union halls. We've got, skid steers with forks on them so that kids can drop, or teenagers can drop basketballs in a net. We've got our simulator equipment for heavy equipment that the members and the kids can play with, food trucks and that type of thing. We have an annual gala for our awards banquets where the members are celebrated for their milestones, 10, 20, 30 and more years. That's what I can think of off the top of my head.
It seems like a no-brainer. The benefits that activities like that have, obviously there's a cost associated with that, right? Putting on those types of events, but the leadership, the people who have the power to make those decisions, and are rank and filers involved in that decision-making process in your union for those types of events, like the budgeting for those types of events?
I'm not sure about, yes, actually, I think they do form committees. I'm not positive. But there's definitely the officers and management or the admin staff for the locals are involved. But I don't believe that rank and file members are involved in the planning or execution of those. It's for them. So let's do something for them rather than with them.
So even more to the power of it is that it's obviously an expense. It's not something that's being demanded by the members. So leadership is in place that sees the value in those types of events for the members,
right?
For appreciation of your rank and file membership.
Right. And obviously every time they make a decision or I suggest something, we have to think about spending members' money, right? Is there is the value returned by this action worthwhile? And so they do weigh those decisions.
I think that's one thing that, like, we just got our LM2 for last year's expenses and intake receipts, and I think it's eye opening, and it's like no duh when you realize it, but to make it very clear to members that the income that the union makes is primarily from your dues, like a huge majority is from your dues. Our union likes to invest and do stocks and stuff, so we make dividend money, like $1 million a year in dividends, but 24 or 25 million dollars is dues money in our local. And so for rank and file members to be aware of, every penny spent is a penny of your labor, and don't ever separate the two, and that includes all the salaries of all the people that are working for us and events like that. So for rank and filers to say, like, yeah, we want the family fun day, we want that every year, like, that's important to us. Like, I remember 15 years ago when I got hired on with the company, they had an event. It was at like a theme park, and it was, super cheap. I can't remember if you even had to pay, but very cheap and affordable tickets for the family to go. There was a barbecue that was there, and it was like a similar idea basically, but you were at like a Six Flags. And so we went, and that was awesome. I got into management after that, like, very shortly, and nothing like that ever occurred. Nothing like that occurs now. But why? Like, what happened? What changed in those 15 years where that used to be something that we thought was important, and now it's not? I asked my local rep why we don't have local meetings anymore, like in our local vicinity, and he said he used to do them, or they used to do them right before he was the rep, but people stopped coming, so they stopped doing them. And I think now it's time to realize, like, okay, we're at the point, like, this far past the damage being done, like, it's a chicken and egg situation now, where it doesn't actually matter, like, who did it first. Like, it doesn't matter that you stopped or they stopped coming. We just need to realize, like, it needs to come back. Like, that's something that we used to have that we need to have again. So how do we move forward from here?
I think this is something that a lot of unions struggle with, is engagement of their membership. Younger people don't know what unions do. They just see it as, oh, I have to pay dues. They don't understand. It's a very big problem, and it's a very difficult problem to solve. But you need to communicate effectively with membership. You need to keep them up to date. I think that the meetings are important. That's the transparency. And if no members come, well, we need to get more engaged with them. We need to communicate more with them. We need to get them interested and exciting. And that's an area where my team and I are actually actively working to try and improve. I think every local could benefit from that. Membership meetings, I mean, they can be done, well, depending on the bylaws and the Constitution. Membership meetings may not be valid online, but you can do one-way video broadcasts with, questions or whatnot to answer questions and get what's the news going out. You can't conduct business in these, but I think spending the time to share information with members, even if only a few come, is worthwhile. By taking those efforts or making those efforts, it'll build trust and it'll build engagement.
Yeah, I think that, I told my rep basically, like, you have to start somewhere, and you probably have to incentivize people at the beginning. We've seen some of the locals that post their meetings online, they have like a raffle at the end, and for various whatever, I don't know what the prizes are, or how it's not like a new car or whatever, it's probably gift cards to union shops or something, yeah, totally. But that's an idea. We've talked about within At What Cost within our group that, a monthly Spotify membership or a monthly Disney Plus code is a great incentive. I think it's probably something that you can easily facilitate. Some companies like Starbucks give their employees Spotify anyways. So the idea of that being an incentive to attend a monthly meeting, and, I never have to pay for Spotify because I go to my monthly meetings. I think you capture the younger generation with stuff like that. I think that there is like you mentioned, the unions kind of being the secret vessel towards mass class action, like working people. The common struggle that we're all feeling as working people. This is something that bridges generations. This is impacting older generations that are facing insecure pensions, insecure medical expenses, insecure living arrangements. They're moving into their elderly years with the generation beneath them not in no financial position to take care of them, and that's going to be something that snowballs. Housing is getting pushed out of reach of everybody. So this is something that's impacting, all these things that divide us, whether your political party is this or this, or your generation is this and this, or your religious belief is this and this. We have a common struggle that unites us, which is the working class is not getting the fair share of the labor that they're putting in. And I think that we're coming together. The more we can come together in these meetings, the more we can get people to participate, the more we can see that. And the younger generation is actually, and the reason I'm thinking about this is because I'm thinking about Starbucks Workers United, and I'm thinking about the Amazon Labor Union and some of the youth that has actually driven those labor movements and been the driving force behind those labor movements. Is there's activism, there's positive public change that can be made if workers can get united, and that may be one avenue for young people to consider is within their labor unions, like they're especially apathetic ones because if there's like not a large participating member body, that means you don't have to get a very large caucus together to start having a majority, right? Like as soon as you get a quorum and you're able to do union business and you're the only participating members, you just basically got a blank check to write any executive order you want for your union. But a lot of them have controls in place actually where the international can step in, or the executive board can step in and kind of squash some of that stuff out. But that's just fuel to the fire for then running for office, right? If you're feeling like you don't have a voice, or you're feeling like you don't have a chance to make a change in your world, I think your union is the spot to explore those opportunities, because I think they're sitting there waiting for people to grab onto them.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting involved is fairly straightforward, even if it's just, running for an executive position during the election, or just supporting the leadership and moving things forward and communicating with other members, right? Become a job steward. Just engage with your brothers and sisters and keep everyone united, or try to form more unity.
I think this is something that you can speak to. On the first episode of Worker to Worker, I spoke with a sister. Her name's Kathleen from UFCW 770 in Southern California. She's a grocery worker at an Albertsons store. She works she's the manager of their .com department, so she does their personal shopping basically for the customers that get their groceries outside. But in 770, they let their members fully participate up and down the leadership structure. So she's on the negotiating committee, and she's in the negotiating room sitting at the negotiating table. And so one thing that we talked about was that in my local, or in a lot of service model locals, there's this like idea that the people that are your leaders are some different class of like human being than you are, like some upper level of intelligence, some upper level of existence. And there's a real like lords and peasants vibe where it's like, you guys don't know what's best for you. We know what's best for you. Trust us. And talking to Kathleen and her experience, it was really eye-opening for me. I kind of want to throw the question to you, and because you do get to work closely with leadership in your union and with the rank and file members, can you kind of speak to, maybe the idea that we're all the same, or validate the fact that those are elite and special individuals that deserve our worship?
No. I mean, so within our union, our leadership are all rank and file members that have been elected to board positions and employed by the union, working for the membership. When we bargain, they will form a bargaining committee, which is usually led by one of the, officers or employees of the union who is a member, but they include workers from the unit, and they form the bargaining committee and together they go and they bargain with the employers. I believe there's some training that's provided to help get people used to that environment, and then they do lean on the experience and training for the business agents or business manager, depending on which agreement's involved, and they work together. Rank and file members aren't necessarily in the loop on that outside of the bargaining committee, but they do communicate as needed to the members before collective agreement ratification or bargaining begins. They do send out a proposal form that members can fill in what's important to them. What part of the CA needs to be changed? What should we ask for? Those will come in and they'll be processed by the bargaining committee, and that's part of what they take to the table, if not all of what they take to the table. Within our local, our business manager, which I guess is the equivalent of the president, the elected leader, he allows the members to vote on memorandum of agreements before they're ratified. And he listens to the members. If they accept it, great, then it's signed. If not, then they continue. So I think that's key and crucial. It's their agreement. Let them vote. So for a lot of those ratifications we are doing, if it's of any size, we do an online vote. We use a third party system that's neutral. And the votes are done, a ballot sent out by email, the results are tabulated, and leadership acts on it.
That's pretty awesome that you guys do virtual voting. We've got in-person mandatory, I believe, for the Save Mart contract that was ratified this year. They had a single day in our local area for a 4-hour window that they could go in and place their vote.
How can that work if you're on shift, right? We try to do at least several days, because we recognize, especially in construction, that shifts are different. And in Alberta in particular, a lot of our workers are in camps. So what that means is if you go to the Fort McMurray area where the heavy oil is processed, workers will live on site for 2 weeks, then they'll get 10 days off. But during that time, they can't really travel. They're in a remote area. Oftentimes they're flown in. That just doesn't work. So for them to communicate, we need electronic means and we need online votes.
It seems like the excuses that we were given were all like security related, etc. And it's like, dude, it's 2025. Like, this can be made secure. At the very least, my rebuttal was that I have to access all my health and my welfare benefits through the trust fund website. I had to upload my social security card and my birth certificate to that website. If it's not secure enough for me to vote on, then how is it secure enough to hold those documents? Obviously, to which I got no reply. But I agree. Like, to me, whatever barrier you need to remove to get 100% member participation in your votes is what you should be striving for. Not a specific outcome, but a specific level of participation, because every person should be able to give their voice. On that Save Mart contract that I'm speaking about, there's probably close to 300 members that the contract fell under in our area, and I believe there was 48 votes. So that's how many people determined the outcome in our area for everybody else. So when I say to those of you listening out there that if you want to make a positive change, it won't take very many of us, like, that's what I mean. And for us, we don't get to see anything about the contract, any of the details, until they present it to us for ratification. There is no back and forth discussion. They give us an update after each negotiation and say, roughly, here's what's happening behind closed doors. But we don't get to, and we asked if we could know, hey, what wages have they offered so far? Oh, we don't want to tell you because things change so fast. Sometimes it's on the table, sometimes it's off the table, and misinformation can spread. It's like, dude, transparency is important. If you want us to know that you're bargaining in our best interest, one of us at least needs to be in the room to come out and at the very least say, yes, they're fighting for you. But we're cut out of that process entirely. And then, like I said, we get the contract, and it's shown to us when it is the UFCW and the company recommend a yes vote on this contract.
And do they make I'll ask, but do they make any effort to answer questions or explain it to you? Contract is legalese, and it's not necessarily straightforward to understand.
No,
So
not at all. So there's no, like, there used to be group reading sessions, and it actually used to be mandatory. Like, there was a financial penalty if you didn't come and attend one of these reading sessions where they read the contract cover to cover, and they held them multiple times through multiple days. People who've been in our union, God bless their souls for telling the stories that have transcended time, are the only reason that we know this, because they've attended those. But so for some of us, like, that have been around since that disappeared, we would never know. And if we don't keep this story alive, we'll forget. But yeah, there's none of that. And you're right. It's that shit is not easy to understand. Like, you don't read through that and go, "Oh, this makes total sense." I use Gemini. Like, I'm not a huge fan of artificial intelligence as a replacement for working people, but as an aid for stupid people like me. I actually created what I call a pocket rep, and I gave it my contract, I gave it my bylaws, I gave it my constitution, and I told it that I wanted it to act like a person that hates corporations and loves unions. And so I just asked it questions about, like, when we were talking earlier about elections, I said, "Hey, I need to know all the rules regarding elections in my union." And when we get off this call, I've got an answer waiting for me, and it's pulled out of all those documents the information that I'm looking for. My union should be educating me on that type of stuff. Now I'm forced to use a computer to cheat and find that information. But that's for all the reasons that we're talking about here, is that, you know, the barriers are being put in front of us. And I think it's fair for us as workers to ask, especially as you're hearing it live right now. Not all unions operate this way. So why do some choose to, you know, and it's on them to explain the benefits of that model. Because as a rank and file member, it doesn't feel good. You know, I can tell you on this side of it, to hear what you guys get to experience. I mean, just the idea of being able to vote digitally, like, it seems like a no-brainer, you know, and it's secure. I'm sure you guys haven't been hacked by Russian bots. I'm sure that you didn't find out that North Korea stole your last election. Like, I mean, go look at any of these union YouTube channels. Nobody gives a shit, you guys. Like, they're not paying attention. They're not spying. This isn't 1939. You're not fighting the Pinkertons. These guys are asleep at the wheel, and we can seriously punch them in the gut if we can get on the same page. Like, it would not be that hard to regain some balance in this new world if we can just figure this, like, obstacle out. And for some of us, I think there's, like, an enemy within, you know. Unfortunately, they're too comfortable with the life they've made for themselves, and they kind of need the tree shook a little bit, which is another reason why I enjoy having these conversations, because hopefully, unfortunately, Darrin, I think that more people's union experience aligns with mine. I think mine is more the norm, and I've just been really lucky to serendipitously connect with people who have a totally different experience. And just so shout out to you guys and your union for making that happen.
It's not me. It's the leadership, and you know, I'm talking to more and more people, and I'm hearing the same types of stories, and that makes me sad. I've been very blessed to have, you know, a leader that cares and is working very hard for the membership. So when I hear stories of locals that aren't like that, I feel badly, and I wish I could help. So that's, you know, partly what I'm trying to do in sharing these tools and empower other members to have a better experience. And maybe it's also possible that the leadership doesn't know how to communicate. So maybe, I'm not speaking to any specifics, maybe it's just a challenge they haven't been able to solve, and maybe they are trying, but there's no window into what they're doing, or maybe they could do it a little bit better, and technology could help with that. That's a possibility as well.
Yeah, I would actually make that pitch to any union leadership that does happen to catch this. If you're hearing it from your rank and filers, don't perceive it as a threat. This is an opportunity, and we're here to help leverage the strength of our union to our benefit. It's win-win for everybody, and you have a new generation of working people that know how to use this stuff, that know how to learn this stuff quickly, and are willing to teach each other and get involved. So, you know, just because it might not be something that you want to get involved with. Don't let that be the thing that kills your union because you didn't want to embrace an email ballot and you lost all voting participation in your union. I mean, it's half of this is a marketing game, and if nobody knows who you are and nobody knows what you stand for, the end is inevitable. So I'll say it again. I say it all the time. Like, this is not a personal thing. This is a structure thing, and it's a technology thing. And I think that any union leader that's willing to embrace the changes that are coming in both union structure and union technology will have a lot to gain. And by that I mean personally, in terms of their own, if they're like not at the tail end of their career and they're wishing to like hold on to power and continue to build power, embrace these things, embrace transparency, embrace technology, embrace giving that power to your rank and file. You will be rewarded. Sean O'Brien has his own podcast now, okay? Like, you can become a celebrity in this new world, like, really easily. I don't know if you've noticed like what's going on with influencer culture, but everyone's looking for a new Jesus. Everyone's looking for a new king. Like, you want to be the king, Jacques Laval, my union president? Like, that's all you got to do. Just get a microphone, start telling the members you're going to fight for them, get out there, get connected, get technology behind you, get your rank and file behind you. Like, we're ready to ride. Workers are ready to fight. This isn't about taking anybody's job. This isn't about taking over anybody's union. I told my rep the same exact thing. I want my job, my Monday through Friday, 5 to 1:30, full-time job. I want it to pay a living wage. That's it. I want to live a comfortable life. I want to be able to afford a house, healthcare, education, vacation, retirement. Nothing crazy. You guys can have everything else. I promise.
You touched on something there earlier, taking jobs. I hear that sometimes when I'm talking to other union leaders. Technology is not necessarily about taking jobs away. It's more about empowering your staff to do a better job for your membership. There's lots of work that needs to be done from all the different unions I've spoken with and worked with. By letting them do, less drudge work, that lets them focus on the bigger problems, focus on the members, focus on getting things done rather than typing a paper form into a computer. You can have the computer take care of that for you or the software do that for you. But that lets the teams focus on the important things, which is the members.
Yep. Yeah, the less busy work that you're doing, the more you can automate busy work. I think that, like you said, it frees up even just creative capital to think of new solutions to challenges because you're not having to, do data entry for half of your day or whatever the case may be.
Right.
A lot of good stuff in there. I promised you 30 minutes. We're at 37. If there's nothing else you've got to add, I think we had a great conversation, Darrin. I appreciate you taking some time with me.
Sure. I think, keep doing what you're doing. It's great to see you doing this work. I think that members need to get more engaged, support the organizers, grow the unions. If your union isn't growing, and organize or die, right? As businesses close, as markets shrink, if you're not growing, you're shrinking and dying. So organizing is important.
Yeah, that's huge. I think there's a lot of statistics out there. I just finished reading We Are the Union from Eric Blanc. I highly recommend it. But really, basically, the nuts and bolts of it was if you don't leverage your rank and file to organize, you cannot scale up. It is impossible to fund the level of organizing required to get the union density that we need. To actually make this, to tip these scales, that if you are skipping out on your rank and file as a source of organizing power, you're not going to, like you said, organize or die. You're not going to survive this. So for us that aren't being given that opportunity naturally in our union, keep fighting, keep taking that. It is your union. There's nothing stopping you from being the person that does it yourself. This isn't UFCW sanctioned or supported, but it is rank and file sanctioned and supported. So we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep having these conversations. Thank you again for Darrin.
My pleasure.
Alberta, dude, so awesome to meet you. I hope to keep connecting with other workers out there. If you know workers or you're a worker yourself that would like to have a conversation like this about what your union's like and life on the shop floor, rank and file working people, reach out. Let's keep connecting. This has been another episode of Worker to Worker, and with that, we're out of here. Goodbye.